Okay, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. So the second microeconomic topic we are going to study is hidden type, adverse selection, and signaling. So in the previous section, there were two periods. The problem was a two-period model. So even though you as the principal doesn't observe the hidden type of the agent, you can over time you have time to get more and more information about the hidden type of the agent, and you can keep updating your belief. If there is long-term interaction, you can do that. You can have better and better idea about the hidden type of the agent. But sometimes you don't have time for that. There is a customer. The customer has a hidden type. You don't observe it, and you have to make a decision. There's no long-term interaction. How could we solve problems caused by hidden types in such a situation? The keywords are signaling and mechanism design. So we will study these basic microeconomic concepts first, and then we'll apply that idea to banking to study the role played by collateral. Okay, that's our plan for this section. Examples of hidden types include ability, diligence, honesty, faithfulness, healthiness, and etc. And the fact that we don't observe these things of people causes many economic problems. I have a couple of examples of problems caused by hidden type here. The first example is about a city that is hosting a big football match. So the city has 1,000 free tickets, and the city wants to gift these tickets to their citizens, hopefully those who really like football. You know, some people are very into football, some people love football, other people are not so much into football. The problem is that the city cannot distinguish two types of people. Some people really want a ticket. Other people are more like, well, I'm not very much into football, but I might be free and bored on that weekend, and why don't I get one ticket if it is free? Okay? And the city cannot distinguish that. If the city asks who really wants a ticket, everyone says, yes, I want a ticket very much. Here, the hidden type is how much a person likes football. The second example is from my country. So in Japan, the two most popular sports are baseball and football. So let's say Mr. Y is the head coach of the baseball team of Kamikaze High School, and they want to recruit new freshers of the year. Among students, some are very keen to practice and play baseball very hard. Others just want to join the team to impress, let's say, their female classmates. And this type of students are really bad because they tend to be lazy when they are not seen, which is very bad for the morale of the team, let's say. So Mr. Y faces a problem because Mr. Y cannot distinguish these two types of students. Here, the hidden type is how keenness or enthusiasm about practicing baseball. The last example is a classic one. It's a judge facing two women who both claim to be the true mother of a child. So two women say, he's my son, no, he's my boy, and the judge cannot tell the difference. It's originally from Judgment of Solomon, but there is a Chinese version, there's a Japanese version. I imagine there are many versions all over the world, so if your country has your own version, please let me know. Now, there are many potential problems caused by hidden types of agents. Arguably, the most notorious one is the adverse selection problem. That's the most famous and notorious problem caused by hidden types of agents. And it was George Akerlof who, for the first time, mathematically formulated the adverse selection problem using the example of the market for lemons. Lemon, I think, is an American slang for crappy things like second-hand cars, used automobiles. And he was awarded, for this work, he was awarded a Nobel Memorial Prize in Economics in 2001, along with Michael Spence and Joseph Stiglitz. Now, if anyone asks you what adverse selection is in one sentence, then this is the definition. Welcome people exit, and only unwelcome people remain. Good people leave, and bad people, not so good people, just stay. That's the adverse selection problem. Let's see what adverse selection problem looks like using a classic example of the market for lemons. So think about the market of used cars. Suppose there are 4 types of cars in the market. 1/4, with equal proportions, let's say, 1/4 of the car owners have the best kind of cars, which are worth £10,000. Okay, the best car is worth £1,000. Excuse me, £10,000. Another quarter of cars are worth £8,000. Okay? And another 1/4 of the car sellers, car owners have an okay car which is worth £6,000, and the rest of the cars are crappy. They are worth only £2,000. Okay, four types of cars with equal proportions. Let's assume that for the car owners, the reservation value of their own car is 80% of the actual quality. So for example, for the owners of the best kind of cars, the reservation value is £8,000, 80% of the £10,000. So if the offered price is at least as high as £8,000, these car owners are happy to sell their car. If the offered price is below £8,000, then they aren't happy. They are not going to sell their car. Okay, that's the reservation value for car owners. Let's also suppose that there are many car buyers in the market. And let's simplify the story by assuming that the buyers simply offer price theta for a car which they think has quality theta. So if a buyer thinks the quality of the car is £8,000, then the buyer simply offers £8,000 as the price. However, we assume that these cars all look the same. The car quality is the private information, hidden type of the car sellers. All cars look the same to buyers, and when the buyer is not sure about the quality of the car, then the buyer computes the expected quality of that car and offers that expected quality as a price. And if, that is the setting. If the offered price is, given the offered price, the seller decides whether to sell his car or not. I think the setting is very simple, but again, the economic models are like a stage on a play, so it's crucial to understand who they are, the characters and the setting. Is the setting okay? There are 4 types of cars. Some are good, some are bad. There are 4 types of cars with equal proportions. Buyers don't know, which car is which type. So they compute the expected quality of any given car and offers that as price. And if the offered price is at least as high as the reservation value, 80% of the quality, then the car seller sells the car. Okay? So let's see what happens in this economy. There are 4 types of cars with equal proportions. So if buyers compute the expected quality of any given car, It's just the average, 1/4 times 2k plus 1/4 times 6k plus 1/4 times 8k plus 1/4 times 10k equal 6.5k. This is the price offered by buyers, not knowing the quality of the car. But if this is the offered price, then the buyers, the owners of the best kind of cars say 6.5k, that's too low. My car deserves at least 8k. I'm not going to sell my car. Because all buyers offer 6.5k, they are gone. They don't stay in the market. So actually there aren't 4 types of cars. There are only 3 types of cars with equal proportions, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. So given that, buyer recomputes the expected quality of any given car existing in the market. That's the average of 2k, 6k, 8k with 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. So now the average quality of any given car is 5.3k. That's the price offered by buyers. But if that is the case, then now the owners of the second best cars think 5.3k, that's too low. My car deserves at least 6.4k. I'm not going to sell my car. I'm gone. And they're also gone. So there are actually only 2 types of cars out there in the market. So the average quality of any given car, if buyer finds any given car on sale, then that's either this 2k or 6k. So the average quality is 4k. That's the price offered by buyers, but you know where we are going. If this is the price offered by buyers, then now the owners of the third best kind of cars think that's too low. My car deserves at least 4.8k. I'm gone. And they are gone. So in equilibrium, only the crappiest cars exist in the market. And knowing that buyers offer 2k, 2,000 pounds, and only this type of cars are traded. It's a shame because if car types were observable, then cheap cars are traded for low price and good cars are traded for good price and all cars will be being traded, but that simply cannot happen because all cars look the same. Okay? There are no markets for cars with higher qualities. Is it clear? I have one exercise question for this. I changed some numbers, and because numbers are different, something different can happen. That's the beauty of economic models. If you change numbers, utilities, probabilities, endowments, then something different can happen in equilibrium. So within that framework, you can predict when it happens, when that happens. Okay? So please try it before the next tutorial. Let's see the adverse selection problem in banking. Suppose there are 3 types of borrowers. So there is a bank in the city, and in the city there are many potential borrowers, and there are 3 types of borrowers, type 1, type 2, type 3. The borrower type is a hidden private information. And the borrowers are characterized by the project, kind of project, the type of project they have. 1/3 of them are type 1 borrowers. And type 1 borrowers have this project. The project needs 100 pounds as the initial investment, and once it is funded and conducted, there is 90% chance of the project succeeding, and the project will yield 400 pounds. And there is 10% chance of the project failing, but nonetheless, this is relatively safe project. Another 1/3 of the population are type 2 borrowers, and they have this following project. It also needs 100 pounds as the initial investment. Once it is funded and carried out, then there is 60% chance of the project succeeding and yielding 570 pounds. There is 40% chance of the project failure. And finally, the other 1/3 of the borrowers are type 3 borrowers with this very risky project. It also needs 100 pounds as the initial investment, and it has only 30% chance of succeeding, and yielding £1,000, and there's 70% chance of failure. So all projects need £100 as the initial investment, and on top of that, let's assume that when a borrower conducts his project, he has to work hard, he has to make efforts, and he has to bear non-pecuniary cost of £200. Okay, he has to work hard, and the effort cost is equivalent to £200. Okay, so each project needs £100 as cash and £200 worth efforts from the borrower. So if the expected pecuniary payoff of conducting the project is below £200, then the borrowers would say, okay, I'm not going to do this project because I would have to make a lot of efforts and it's not worth it. The bank cannot tell who is which type. The bank cannot tell who is which type. That's hidden type. But bank can observe once the project is carried out, the bank can observe the project outcome, whether the project succeeded or failed. But still, the bank cannot observe how much money the project made. So even after observing the project succeeding, still the bank doesn't know which type the borrower was. But nonetheless, because they can observe the project outcome, success or failure, the bank can make the following deal. So the bank says, okay, borrower. So borrower comes to the bank says, okay, the borrower, we can lend you £100, we can fund your project. We will observe your project outcome, and we know that if the project fails, you won't be able to repay anything. But if your project succeeds, then pay us this much. Okay, this is the required amount of repayment in the event of the project success. And that required repayment should be such that the bank can get back £110 in expectation. How much should the bank charge as the repayment in the event of project success? Is the setting okay? There's a bank. There are three types of borrowers with equal proportions. Some have good, safe projects. Others have risky projects. The bank doesn't know who is which type. When a borrower comes to the bank says, okay, we can lend you £100. If your project succeeds, then pay us this much. This is the required repayment in the event of your project success. And it should be such that the required repayment should be such that the bank can get, when the bank lends £100, the bank can get back £110 in expectation. And the borrowers compute the expected pecuniary payoff on their side. And if that is below £200, then they don't do it because they have to make efforts, and the effort cost is equivalent to £200. Is the setting clear? Okay. So let's see what happens in this setup. Let's denote by X1 the payment that the bank charges. This is the required amount of repayment in the event of the project success. And that should satisfy the following equation. If the borrower is type 1, then the probability of successful repayment is 90%. He will repay X1 pounds, so the expected repayment from a type 1 borrower is 0.9 times X1. The expected repayment from a type 2 borrower is 0.6 times X1, because he will succeed in his project and makes repayment with the probability 60%. The expected repayment from a type 3 borrower is 0.3 times X1. Because they exist with equal fractions, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, we take the average, and that's the expected repayment when any borrower comes to the bank. And this should be equal to £110 because our assumption is that when the bank lends £100 to a borrower, the bank wants £110 in expectation. So X1 is equal to £183.3. So the bank says, okay, well, borrower comes to the bank says, okay, we don't know your type, but if your project succeeds, then pay us 183 pounds. Let's compute the expected payoff on the borrower's side. For type 1 borrowers, if project fails, then they get nothing. But if the project succeeds with probability 90%, the project makes 400 pounds. They will have to repay 183 pounds to the bank. So after repayment, the expected pecuniary payoff to type 1 borrowers is 195 pounds. Similarly, for type 2 borrowers, the project will succeed with the probability 60%. And if the project succeeds, the project makes 570 pounds, and they will have to repay 183 pounds. So after repayment, for type 2 borrowers, the expected pecuniary payoff is 232 pounds. Similarly, if you compute the same thing, for type 3 borrowers, the expected payoff is 245 pounds if they get the loan and conduct the project. Now, our assumption is that they want at least 200 pounds because making efforts, working hard, is costly as 200 pounds. So type 1 borrowers think that this deal is very unattractive. Okay, this repayment is too high, and they think, okay, this is not worth doing. I'm not getting the loan and conduct the project. So they are gone. So actually, there are only two types of borrowers, right? Whenever a borrower comes to the bank, the borrower is either type 2 or type 3. The expected repayment from type 2 borrowers is the probability of repayment times the amount of repayment the bank requires. The expected repayment from type 3 borrower is the probability of repayment times the repayment that the bank requires in the event of the project success. And because they exist with 50-50 proportion, we take the average, and that's the expected repayment from any borrower, and that should be equal to 110 pounds because, again, our assumption is that the bank wants 110 pounds in expectation. That's our assumption. So now, the expected repayment, the required repayment in the event of the project success is 244.4 pounds. It's larger than before, reflecting the fact that there aren't safe borrowers out there. Now, given this high repayment required from the bank, if type 2 borrowers compute the expected payoff on their side, that's the probability of the project succeeding times the amount of money the project makes minus the repayment equal 195 pounds. For type 3 borrowers, it's 227 pounds. Again, because the payoff is below 200 pounds, type 2 borrowers think that it's not worthwhile to get the loan and carry out the project. So they are also gone. So actually, there is only one type of borrowers. When whoever comes to the bank to get the loan is type 3 borrower. And knowing that the bank should charge even higher repayment, so the bank says, okay, we know that you are type 3. You can repay with only 30% probability. So the required repayment is, well, we want 110 pounds in expectation. So the required repayment is 366 pounds. If your project succeeds, then you should pay this much to us. And given this high repayment, the expected payoff to type 3 borrower himself is the probability of the project succeeding times 1,000 pounds the project makes minus the repayment equal 190 pounds. It's below 200 pounds, so even type 3 borrowers choose not to get a loan and conduct the project. They are also gone. And then there were none. And this is very a shame because, if the types are observable, then bank would be happy to charge a relatively low interest on type 1 borrowers. bank would be happy to charge relatively high interest on type 2 borrowers. And they might get a loan and they might conduct the project. But that simply doesn't happen in this economy. No one gets a loan, no one conducts a project, nothing is produced in this economy, simply because types were unobservable. And this is an example of the moral hazard, the adverse selection problem in banking. Of course, if you change numbers, something different can happen. Moral adverse selection doesn't always happen, but in this example, it happens. Okay. Typically, if the distribution is very dispersed, then moral hazard. Why am I keep saying moral hazard? The adverse selection tends to happen if the distribution of types are very dispersed, like there are many bad types and good types. If the distribution is very close, like, okay, there are many types, but they are more or less similar to one another, then adverse selection tends not to happen. Okay? Let me give you one more example of the adverse selection problem. It's a good idea to know as many examples as possible when you learn a new concept. You know, if someone doesn't know what bird is, it's really hard to explain what a bird is like to that person. But if you can show 10 examples, you know, okay, that's a sparrow, that's a bird, that's a swan, that's also a bird, that's a crow, that's an owl, they are also birds, then that person will gradually understand what bird is. Our brain works that way. We see 10 examples, and then our brain extracts a common feature or common structure of these 10 examples to get a more abstract concept from these examples. This process is called induction. That's how our brain works. So let me give you one more example of the adverse selection problem. And that's another classic one, the health insurance. You know, how healthy a person is a hidden type, hidden information. Some people are very healthy, others are very weak. For the health insurance company, a health insurance company would be happy to charge very low insurance premium if the customer is very, strong and healthy. But if the person is very weak, then the insurance company would have to charge high insurance premium, right? But because the health is hidden type, the best thing the health insurance company can do is to say, okay, if you're a male in your 30s who has never had cancer before, then your monthly insurance premium is 100 pounds. Okay? Then the healthiest people might think, well, 100 pounds per month, that's too high for me. I mean, I eat well, I sleep well, I go to the gym every day, and have never seen a doctor since I was born. I would rather save 100 pounds in a bank account, and they might be gone. And if they are gone, then the pool of the customers for the insurance company is now less healthy, right? Because the healthiest people are gone. And the insurance premium should reflect that now the insurance company should charge higher premium. Okay, the premium is 150 pounds per month. But then the second healthiest people might think that this is too high. Okay, that's another example of adverse selection problem. How can we deal with problems caused by, well, adverse selection problems and other problems caused by the presence of hidden types? A solution suggested by Michael Spence was signaling. Signaling is to credibly convey information about one's own type by taking an action that is too costly for other types to imitate. Credibly conveying information about one's own type by taking an action that is too costly for other types to imitate. And the example he gave was education as a means of signaling. So the story goes as follows. Let's say there is a town, and there are many young people there. Some people are very smart, other people are just ordinary, and the companies want to hire them. And the companies are happy to pay very high wage to smart people and only relatively low wage to ordinary people. Okay? But how smart a person is a hidden type. Okay? Private information. And let's say in this town, any sorts of trial or probation period or internship are prohibited, so that the company has to offer a wage not knowing how smart the person is. Okay, imagine such a situation. Company knows there are smart people and not so smart people out there, but they don't know who is which type. So the companies have to offer a very average wage to everyone. Average wage to everyone. Then the smartest people might think, oh, that wage is too low for me, I deserve more. I think I'd rather move to New York. And again, they might be gone. And adverse selection problem might arise. Now, Michael Spence said, suppose there is a university in that town, and the university offers just one degree, a Bachelor of Ancient Latin. Okay? And suppose ancient Latin, knowledge of ancient Latin is completely useless for companies' production. But suppose learning ancient Latin and getting the degree is very hard. Let's say it's relatively easy for smart people, and it would take them only 10 months to get the degree for smart people. And suppose studying ancient Latin and getting the degree is extremely hard for normal people, not so smart people. And suppose it would take them 3 years to study ancient Latin and get the degree. Then what companies can do is, okay, people, if you have the degree, we can offer you high wage. If you don't have degree, then we offer you, don't worry, we can still offer you some decent wage. And smart people might think, okay, well, ancient Latin it's really useless, but yeah, I can afford 10 months, and they study ancient Latin, get the degree, and get high wage from companies. And ordinary people are more like, well, it would take me 3 years, I'd rather go for a low wage. If that happens, okay, ex ante, companies cannot observe who is smart and who is not smart, but ex post, these two types are separated because smart people voluntarily choose to get the degree. Ordinary people voluntarily choose not to get the degree. So ex post, they voluntarily reveal their own types. So the companies know who is smart, who is just ordinary, and the company can offer different wages to different types. People found this Michael Spence's example. I modified it. I don't think he said ancient Latin. But people found Michael Spence's example of university education very interesting, because in this example, in equilibrium, the people with university degree gets a higher wage than non-university graduates, even if the university education is completely useless for companies, right? I'm not saying that the university education is useless, but that was his example. Okay, so let's go back to our previous examples of the problems caused by hidden types and see what kind of action can be used as a means of signaling. Again, in Spence's example, hidden type is the smartness. Hidden type is smartness, and the signaling method is getting the degree. Because by doing that, getting the degree signals that they are smart. The first example we saw was this city wanting to gift 1,000 free tickets to real football lovers For this, for example, the city can make an announcement. Okay, dear citizens, we will start to distribute, gift a free ticket starting at 6 a.m. on Monday. So if you really want the tickets, then please come and queue up. Please wait in a line in front of the city hall. It's going to be first come, first served basis. And then those who really want the ticket would arrive there maybe 2 hours before 6 a.m. or maybe the night before, and they will wait in the cold and dark, which those who are not very much into football wouldn't bother to do it. Okay, so that can separate. Here, the waiting for a long time can serve as a means of signaling. What about the second example? So head coach cannot distinguish those students who are really keen to play and practice baseball and those who are not so keen. Does anyone have an idea? An idea? Early morning training? Yeah, that's a good idea. That works. I mean, working in the early morning is a discipline. What typically happens in Japan is as follows. So the coach says, okay, who is keen? Who is ready to practice hard? And everyone says, yes, I'm keen, coach, let me in, right? And then the coach says, okay, then crop your hair. Very short, shave your head and come back. See you tomorrow. And then, those who are really keen to play and practice baseball, here is nothing, right? Compared with the happiness and the pleasure they could get from playing baseball. So they shave their head and go back on the next day. And those who are not very keen to play baseball think, okay, no thank you. And they don't go back. So that's what typically happens in Japan. What about the used car market? Any idea? It's not limited to used car market. For producers, for the quality of producers and manufacturers, the typical solution is product guarantee or warranty. Because if the seller knows that what they are selling is very good, if they are confident about what they are selling, then they can say, okay, if it breaks within 2 years, then we will cover the full cost of repair. But if they know that what they are selling is actually crappy, then providing such warranty is extremely costly, and they cannot do that. So by giving such a guarantee, good sellers, high quality sellers can distinguish themselves from low quality sellers, manufacturers. I haven't found any example of means of signaling that solves this two-mother problem. So the two women are both claiming to be the true mother of a child. In the story, the judge says, okay, then split the boy, cut him in half. And one of the women says, no, please don't hurt the boy. Give the boy to the other woman. And the judge says, aha, so you are the true mother. But that's okay. That may work in the real world, but that doesn't satisfy the definition of signaling. Because, just saying, oh, please don't hurt the boy, please give the boy to the other woman, can be said by the fake mother as well. It's not saying that, it's not costly for the fake mother. So both women can say that. It should be easy, relatively easy for the good welcome type, and it should be costly for bad unwelcome type. Also, requiring them to take a DNA test and prove that she is the true mother doesn't satisfy the definition of signaling either. It might work in the real world, but it doesn't satisfy the definition because proving that she is the true mother by a DNA test is not costly for the fake mother. It's impossible for the fake mother. And if such a test was available, then the types were observable. There are no hidden type problem, okay, to begin with. So, okay, it may work, but it doesn't satisfy the definition of the signaling. For signaling, the action should be, the signaling is more like good types voluntarily choose to do it at some cost. Bad type voluntarily choose not to do it. They could, but they choose not to do it, and ex post these two types reveal themselves. That's the idea of signaling. Let's go back to the collateral problem we saw and see how, let's go back to the banking problem to see how collateral can solve this adverse selection problem in banking. So in banking, the hidden type is, in the context of banking, the hidden type is borrower's type. Okay, quality of the borrower, the risk, the default probability of the borrower. There are two common means of signaling in this context. One is equity provision, and the other is collateral provision. As to equity, the bank can say, okay, borrower, you need £100 to fund the project. We can lend you £80. The other £20 should come from you. The other £20 you should pay out of your pocket. That's equity, right? If the borrower knows that his project is really good, and if he believes that he has very low default probability, then putting up some of his money, if any, is relatively easy. But if the borrower believes that his own project is very bad, then providing such equity is relatively costly. So that's how equity provision serves as a means of signaling. The other means is collateral provision. So the bank says, okay, if your project fails, then you should give up this much collateral. And again, if the borrower believes that his default probability is very low, promising such collateral is relatively easy, while if the borrower believes that there is pretty good chance of him defaulting, then making such a promise is very costly. Okay, so let's go back to the previous banking example. Just to refresh your memory, there are three types of borrowers. The bank doesn't know who is which type when any borrower comes to the bank to get £100. And the bank requires, previously, the deal was that the bank says, okay, if we can lend you £100, if your project succeeds, then pay us this much. So the deal included only the amount of repayment in the event of the project success. Now let's assume that the deal is composed of two things: the amount of repayment to be made if the project succeeds, and the amount of collateral to be given up if the borrower defaults. So if the project fails, the borrower has to give up the collateral. Now in general, the collateral can be anything. It can be buildings, houses, securities. In general, the value of the collateral can be different for the borrower and for the lender. The borrower and the bank can attach different values to the collateralized object. Today we are going to make an extreme assumption that the collateral is valuable only to borrowers, and the collateral is completely worthless to the bank. So imagine things like your diary from your high school, or your keepsake of your deceased daughter, or I don't know, a pound of flesh. Okay, still we can show that the collateral partially solves the adverse selection problem in banking, because as long as it is valuable for the borrower, promising that is costly, very costly for a borrower who thinks his default probability is very high, and promising that is relatively easy for borrowers who is confident about repayment. Okay? I think it's a good time to stop. So let's stop here, and I'll continue next time. So yeah, thank you.